Hi guys, Yuki here, back with Seduce Me Too, the Demon War, alternate routes, Damien's one, part 2. We're trying to get the better end with him, and then just take it from there. I know it's been like a really long time since I've actually posted anything, and the previous part from this hasn't even been up by the time I'm recording this, so apologies for that. I've just been like, I guess, enjoying the last few weeks of summer before I go back to college. And so, yeah, I'm trying to get through this and try to finish this up as fast as I can without, just kind of well, I basically am speed throughing with it. But we're gonna see how long this will take me. As I say before, whenever classes start up again, it's gonna make it even harder for me to well, actually no. Since these classes are pretty easy, it shouldn't be too hard, but they're not gonna be as frequent, and I know I've had like almost a whole month since I haven't really updated, but anyways, aside from that, oh yeah, we've we're at like 119 something 1000. Well, alright, apologies for that, but yeah, I got some time now. Probably gonna try to, these next few days that are coming up before Monday, I'm gonna try to upload as much as possible, or at least maybe like hour-long things, but I know that's probably gonna be a little too hard for some people to actually want to watch. But enough of me rambling, let's go to the game where I accidentally skipped past, like, a portion of, James with, his wife. But, hopefully it doesn't deter too much, but yeah, I'll continue. What? No! Load. Go. Load. Go. What? This is probably the wrong one. Alright, one moment then, since I have not been prepared for this. Alrighty, got that fixed up. Hopefully we won't have any more problems. Oh, and I should probably be putting up locked hearts soon. It's just that with me, I can't actually play it on my laptop. Well, I can play it on my laptop, but I can't record it because it'll just be my voice in like a plain, just singular, like it won't progress really. Like you'll hear my voice and it'll actually be working, but what it will record is just like one still image, which is really sucky. So, anyways, let's just do that. I don't know how long it'll take me to actually edit that one. Hopefully not that long, but we'll see. It was actually really fun, and it was fun to finally collaborate with other people and, well, meet friends and that stuff. But it does get a little out of hand, and we do say some kind of not so appropriate things. So I'm not exactly sure if well, it's not like super bad, but like, and it's like all in joke. It's not like, but I don't know if that could probably be bad for people who may have something. Well, I don't know. I'm getting off track. Let's just go. Iridessa allowed a sigh, sitting up straight in her chair as James walked over to the fireplace and stared into the flames. Her countenance wavered as she watched his features shifting into something more hesitant, almost nervous. A stark contrast from her earlier mirth.
Hey, James?
Yes, Iri?
Oh, that's cute. Dang.
Can I ask you something?
James looked over to her in curiosity, nodding to the question. Iridessa took in a deep breath and closed the book in her hands, laying it on her lap.
We're gonna go home soon, right?
Of course. As soon as we resolve this war, we'll return home.
Something was wrong. I could feel it just by looking at Iridessa, and I knew James did as well. She had something on her mind, but would she say it out loud?
Is something troubling you, love?
She closed her eyes and took a moment to seemingly gather her nerves before looking at James once again.
It's just... Is it wrong that I kind of don't want us to be here?
What? Where did this come from? James seemed to be as confused by the question too, raising an eyebrow at her.
Huh? What do you mean?
Iridessa's teeth dug into her lower lip before she placed the book on the table beside her chair and stood up, hugging her arms around herself, her fingers tapping at her arm in an anxious tick.
Is it bad that I don't want us to be in the same place as Diana?
I stared wide at Iridessa. She really didn't want to be here? What was this about? She seemed supportive thus far, but what about Diana made her feel uneasy? Well, since she was obviously James's intended fiancé, and then that kind of went down the drain. She feels like competition almost, but not really, because James loves Iridessa so much, so it would never happen. James turned fully to Iridessa with a look of mild surprise before his expression lit up with realization.
Is it because she was once my betrothed?
Iridessa seemed to wince at the sentence, but nodded nonetheless in response to James's question. I understood why, though. Who would want to be in the same place as a woman who could have taken that one you loved away? James's lips drooped into a frown as he crossed his arms.
I'm sure she has no intentions of taking me away from you.
That's not what I meant.
Iridessa looked down at the ground, pressing her lips together in a fine line.
I guess I'm just not comfortable being here with her. Something about her just... I don't know. I mean, she's a gorgeous succubus and all, and I'm just nothing compared to her.
Aww.
Love.
How could I even compete? You two could have ruled together, made a beautiful couple. She could have given you more than I ever could. She is.
Iridessa!
James's tone forced Iridessa to look up at his face, seeing the stern king his queen, had married.
There is no competition. You are the woman I chose, the one I wanted, the beautiful and kind woman whom I was lucky enough to marry. I swore to be with you for the rest of my life as your husband. No one in the 5 worlds can make me betray you or lose the love I feel for you.
Aww, look at that. Look at that, that's so cute. That's so cute. James slowly walked over to Iridessa, wrapping his arms around his wife's waist. She squeezed her arms around him tightly for a moment before letting out a sigh, the tension lifting from her shoulders as she looked up at him.
You're right. I'm sorry, James. I'm not doubting you, I swear. I guess I've been overthinking a bit lately. Sometimes it's still hard to believe that you chose me when you could have anyone in the world you desired.
You are the only one I desire. I am yours and you are mine forevermore. I vow to give you my entire life, and will protect you for as long as I live by your side.
Raestro.
At the mere mention of his demon name, I could see energy pulse around James's form. He let out a small, pleasured hum as he leaned in and pressed his forehead against Iridessa's.
You know that you're not supposed to use my real name unless you need something.
Oh. I could feel a wave of voyeuristic embarrassment run along my cheeks as Iridessa looked away from him, biting her lip coyly. James chuckled deeply, however, and kissed her temple, hugging her close to him.
We'll be home soon, I promise. Once this war is over, we'll return and never have to worry about Diana ever again. Okay?
Okay. I love you.
I love you too. Always.
Iridessa finally looked up at James and smiled sweetly. He mirrored her grin, leaning down but stopping halfway so his love would strain on the edge of her toes to claim her kiss. Her smile shifted into one of mischief as her fingers curled into the soft material of his sweater just over his chest. She tugged, bringing him down so their lips could finally meet. I couldn't help but admire them. They made a picturesque pair, complementing each other in many different ways, be it with fashion, personality, or even their endearing height difference. Seeing them together sharing such a sweet moment reminded me of where I first met her. Iridessa exuded an air of delicate shyness that balanced well with James's commanding presence. I recalled how quiet but polite she had been during our first meeting, full of kind smiles and soft laughter. While watching Iridessa close the gap between them and the eldest of the brothers made her appear more powerful. She claimed a would-be king and didn't dare dream of letting him go. I became a little envious of her, but I was happy with the man I had in my life. Their hands started to wander and I could feel my cheeks heat up. I realized that I had peeked in on them long enough. Wanting to give them some privacy, I turned and left alone to continue my journey to my room. I treaded towards my room, admiring the decor as my mind wandered to Damien. I began to wonder how his training was going. Was he adjusting to his powers once again? Was he holding back? The idea of him using his powers seemed a little bit thrilling. It had been years since he used them, after all. What kind of attacks could he do now, especially in the demon world?
Oh, many things can happen in this world. You're limiting the possibilities so much.
I stopped walking, suddenly feeling the room dim a bit as I looked around for the voice. It wasn't Diana. I knew that for a fact, but how was the voice in my head, my dreams, back to haunt me? Was it like how it was able to communicate with me in the human world? I looked around for a mirror, but found none in sight.
Again, you limit the powers of magic, dear. Everything, nothing. Sometimes I don't know myself.
What? I could only glare into the dark, tensing up and preparing myself for a fight. The laughter that echoed from the room only made me ease up a slight inch.
So eager to fight. Too bad you're not as wise as you are brash.
Why don't you just leave me alone?
Because this is entertaining. This little game of will he, can he is just too interesting to pass up. Only a fool would ignore this kind of intrigue.
Then why pretend to be Diana? A lingering silence filled the room, making it that much more creepy. Something about this wasn't right, and I began to feel chills just from standing in the same spot. No one was around to witness me, and I was feeling like prey about to be strucken at. At last, a deep chuckle invaded my ears.
Because, dear, I'm what you fear the most.
What?
Think about it. Or should I replay my little rape scene for you again?
I froze, realizing what she meant. She gave me that horrid nightmare and made me watch it? I knew that something had been wrong with it, outside of it being completely disgusting in the first place, but to think that this was induced by whatever this thing was... I practically snarled at the dark. That was you.
You sound so confident. It feels so good to be recognized.
I began to prepare an attack, but found myself faltering due to the exhaustion from training. The harder I tried, the more the room around me began to spin. I had to stop myself, not wanting to faint in the hallway. The voice in the air chuckled heartily at my struggle, making me grimace and glare harder at the dark.
Oh, I can't wait until you realize who I actually am. The expression on your face will be just so tantalizing.
Tell me? This game was becoming too intense. This was some voice in my head taunting me and laughing at my struggles to make it stop playing games with me. The voice only laughed.
I don't need to tell you anything, dear. You'll have to figure out that little detail on your own.
What's stopping me from just ignoring you?
You can't. I'm always there, tickling your brain and reminding you of what you truly believe.
With the last haunting words in my mind, the voice finally vanished and the light in the hallway grew back to its original glow. I took a deep breath, looking around and taking in the sight of everything as I realized I was alone once more. How much time had passed? I could only grimace and shake my head, holding it. This is a major issue, but I would be able to fix this on my own, or would I need help? Damien had problems of his own to deal with. What if I approached Diana about it? I started my journey back to my room with the thoughts in my head. What the hell was haunting me? Some kind of ghost? A magical entity? No, that's Eric's route.
Come on! Guess! Just guess!
Oh yeah, this scene.
How am I supposed to know?
I stopped walking at the sound of Faye and Sarah's voice reverberating through the hall around the corner, breaking my thoughts. They sounded intoxicated. I looked around the corridor to see Sarah, Faye, and to my surprise, Damien sitting on the ground by the bedroom door. Damien's face was as pink as a peach, matching Sarah and Faye's intoxicated faces, but his eyes were glimmering in gold. Had Damien been drinking? He didn't seem to be affected by the chatter between Sarah and Faye.
How am I supposed to know which one you have?
I could have both!
See, even he agrees that's not fair.
I pressed myself against the wall, listening in further. Why were they all drunk, and what were they even talking about?
I will say, though, that human girl is just mega super duper powerful, you know?
I'll say, you.
Sarah gave Damien a nudge before taking a swig of what's from a seemingly almost empty bottle before continuing to speak to my incubus.
You got really lucky to land a girl like her. Powerful, feisty, smart. She's like a human version of my lady.
Oh, don't even start talking about Diana, you crazy puppy!
I'm not a puppy. I'm
I shook my head, stifling a bit of a laugh. This was a little amusing to overhear.
No, she's nothing like her.
Huh?
I stared over at Damien, seeing him run a finger along the rim of a bottle, eyes deep in thought.
She isn't a demon. She's a human, pure and perfect. She would never hurt me or do anything cruel to me.
But I kinda am right now. I feel terrible. My heart slightly melted at his words. He really thought about me that way?
I loved her ever since I met her, and she's been there for me for everything. She made me human. Well, almost human anyway.
Damien. Sarah nudged Damien again, laughing a bit.
Well, my lady tried to turn you human. You can't say she didn't try.
Not without making the one I love choose something horrible and give her our energy.
Hey now.
Oh, get off your high horse, puppy boy! Diana's got a mean side and you know it! I'm not surprised she tricked him into giving her that energy!
But I still love her, even when she's mean to me.
I think that's called masochism.
Damien? I finally turned the corner, facing the three as they looked up at me. As Damien's eyes locked onto mine, I could feel a very weak enthrallment attempt to wrap around my core, but it almost felt sloppily done, allowing me to break through it without even trying. Sarah and Faye scrambled up and pointed at Damien.
It was his fault!
Before I could make them stop, the pair of demons practically sprinted down the hall and out of sight around the far corner. Hey, I'm not a teacher here. I'm not gonna, be like, you guys are bad for drinking. You guys can do what you want. Leaving him, I pressed my lips together and walked towards Damien, seeing him gaze hard into my eyes in attempts to thrill me. Damien, what happened? He wasn't answering, and I could tell that he was trying to make the enthrallment happen. Still, I remained unfazed. I sighed and crouched down, helping Damien up and ignoring the ornate empty bottles that fell over at his upward movement. Come on, let's go get you inside. I guided Damien inside at last and closed the door behind us. He seemed to follow along, his arm wrapped around my shoulders as I walked him towards the bed. Before I could lay him down, however, he spun me around and pinned me to the wall, staring deep into my eyes. Damien?
I love you.
I became lost in Damien's glowing eyes, feeling his enthrallment attempt once again to consume me. Every warning bell went off in my head, reminding me that he wasn't exactly being fed properly and regularly. This was probably him starving for energy. Some parts of me, despite all of this, didn't want to let this go. It had been years since I felt his enthrallment on me. My body began to crave the urge to delve into my curiosity. Would it be different? Would I enjoy him more than when we usually held each other? He was starving and I was curious. A deadly combination indeed. I let myself sink against the wall, staring up at Damien as he bore his hungry gaze into my soul. To see the new animal within him seemed too erotic to pull away from.
I just need a bit. Just enough to stop the hunger.
Control yourself? This wasn't Damien. This was a demon controlling him. The demon Damien didn't want to be. I had to make him calm down first. Damien stared hard at me before slowly pulling away and sitting on the bed. You can take energy from me while I sleep, but you need to control yourself. You're letting the demon side of you take over.
You're right.
Damien nodded before looking up at me, his eyes still glazed over in gold. I nodded and crawled into bed, feeling exhaustion curl around me and demand my sleep. Come here. Damien obeyed and lying beside me as I wrapped his arms around me, guiding him to where he could take energy from me. As I closed my eyes, I could feel a slight sigh brush over my shoulder. The morning slowly rose with me, waking up to see Damien's sleeping face. As I slowly sat up, I felt the ache of the morning wreck through me, demanding that I go back to sleep. However, I knew better. I knew that the day had to continue forward and that I had to wake up. Still, seeing Damien fast asleep made me feel a bit relieved. He certainly needed the sleep after the night before. A very faint knock rapped on the door, causing me to look up and see Diana enter with 2 plates of warm food. As she stepped in, she looked over at me and tilted her head.
Up again before him?
I nodded and rubbed the back of my neck, grinning a bit. I guess I've gotten used to the demon world time. Diana laughed a bit before placing the food she held on the table nearby and crossed her arms.
I see. Well, if you could, please wake Damien up. I have something I must speak to you two about.
Huh? What is it? Diana grimaced and looked away from me, staring at the ground and avoiding my gaze.
It would be best if both of you heard my news. Please, just wake him up.
I nodded and looked down at Damien, seeing him slightly stir against my body before I placed my hands on his shoulder and kissed his cheek. Damien, wake up. Oh man, I don't want to, but I'll shake him, I'm sorry. I smiled and shook Damien a bit, making him release a shaky groan from my action. Come on, Diana's here and wants to talk to us. Damien stirred a bit more, finally opening his eyes and yawning before being awoken. As he looked up at me, I smiled down at him, earning a tired smile back. Morning. Damien slowly sat up, stretching his arms over his head before shaking his head and looking to Diana, taking in that she was in the room.
Good morning.
Damien only nodded before leaning back against the bedpost, relaxing against them as he looked to me. I turned my head to Diana and gestured for her to speak. So what is it? Diana looked down at the floor, trying to find the answers in the wooden grain. I became more curious as to what Diana was about to reveal the longer the silence in the air lingered. What was the important news she had to say? When Diana formulated her answer, she looked up at me and Damien, taking in a breath.
I may have found a way to perform a reverse ritual.
A what? Diana ran her hand through her hair and locked her gaze to me, obviously more comfortable with speaking to me than my fiancé.
Long ago, when this world was forged, there was a human named Lilith, who was transformed into a demon and was brought to this world. It had been known ever since that any human who wished to be a demon, or is punished to be one, can very much become one. I'm suggesting that it's an option. A risky one, but an option nonetheless. I know that what I did back then was wrong. My intent was to make you as human as possible. But there was no method to even do that until now. If this works, you will become human. I swear on my family name.
Interject. It may have been Diana's form of redemption, but it was potentially risking Damien's life. Who knew if this would work at all, let alone successfully turn him human without healing him? Diana, this is insane.
But it's the only option there is.
Diana looked to me and stared into my soul, making me almost freeze up in place from the intensity of her stare.
I lost my family despite having the energy to drive the Demon Lord away from them. I've received my due punishment for this mistake, and now I'm going to make it right. It is up to him if he wishes to become a human or not.
See.
Why wouldn't you have a say?
Before my eyes, the world around me froze and I was shut in a room of darkness, everything rarely tinted in shadow. What? Feeling stuck to my spot, dark laughter, blah blah blah.
It would be so selfish of him to become human without considering your feelings first. Wouldn't you agree?
What do you want now?
I'm just stating what's deep in your heart. Nothing more.
What do you mean?
Don't tell me I have to spell it out, dear. Damien turning human? He'd lose all of his powers. He'd be worthless, weak, and simple.
But what if that's what he wants?
Do you even know what he wants?
The memory of my wedding day flashed before my eyes. The voice was telling the truth. Did I really know what Damien wanted? Was anything he wanted for the best? The voice chuckled deeply, a relaxation settling into my core.
Now you're getting it.
I remained silent, now lost once again. What was best? What if turning Damien human meant destroying who he was? I became trapped in an endless cycle of questions and confusion as the voice finally vanished and let the world continue on its journey forward in time.
You do not have to decide now, but I will be awaiting your answer if you do wish to try.
Thank you.
Diana nodded before leaving the room, most likely to prepare for the day. Damien and I stood in silence, me lost from the voice in my head and Damien lost in his own thoughts. What were we supposed to do? The option was now on the table, but instead of Diana sleeping with Damien, there was a chance that Damien could lose his life. I wasn't sure where I stood on the issue, but I didn't like the option I was given before and now. Was it better to just leave Damien as a demon? Was it worth dying to become a human? The voice in my head teased me, prodding me to convince Damien to think against himself, but my heart knew that the choice was his alone. As I looked to him, I could see the conflict in his eyes while he stood and took up both of the breakfast plates Diana's made for us. And then he
Selfish.
Well, yeah. Oh, the name of the voice is Mal, okay? I pulled myself from the training grounds to the gates and through the castle doors. The interior was dark, yet the warm, ever-burning fires that served as lights illuminated the corridors eased my ability to navigate through the winding halls. The walk was peaceful and quiet on the way to my destination, until I heard a familiar laughter tear through the walkway. Oh, we already know this, Simon.
Simon!
Skip! And then, oh yeah, Irene and Eric, skip. Oh, I reached the room to see Damien standing by the door, obviously waiting for me. As he caught sight of me, he smiled slightly and walked over, meeting me halfway.
Hey.
Hey. I couldn't mask the worry in my voice. I was nervous, frightened beyond anything else about this. There was a lot at stake, and I became witness and potential victim to it all with each minute that passed. But would Damien listen? Would he understand? What would he do if I voiced my worries? Would he give a damn about the risks? Did he give a damn? I gazed into his eyes, seeing a hopeful fire burn within them. His answer was clear, while mine wasn't. It was completely uncomfortable to be in my skin, but I had to accept that this was an obstacle we had to face one way or another. Damien took up my hand and held him to his chest.
Would you be upset with me if I went through with it?
A part of me felt like screaming, begging him to reconsider. The other part of me wanted to simply shake my head and accept that what was about to occur was completely torn. I gripped onto Damien's hands, clinging for something to soothe me, making me feel at ease. When nothing came, I scrambled to try and answer him. Please don't, it's too risky. I couldn't let him do this. I couldn't let him do something that I would rip him away from me. Besides, there was nothing wrong with him being a demon. Being a demon was way better than being a silly, weak human. I would know. I gripped his hands tightly, pulling him to my chest and gritting my teeth. This was wrong to ask him, but I didn't want him to change. I don't want to lose you. I love you, and I want to be with you forever. I don't want this ritual to take you away from me. Damien stared down at me, watching me lay my forehead in his hands, desperately clinging to him. I prayed he would listen and see reason. I was more than happy to sacrifice energy for him. I was fine with him enthralling me and taking my energy. I didn't care if I couldn't see the benefits of him being a demon. This was our relationship, and this was my decision as much as it was his. I feel really selfish. Damien lowered his head and kissed over my hair, making me gasp and look up at him as he lifted his head away. He had a sad smile, but a smile nonetheless as he gave my hands a squeeze.
All right. I won't.
My heart melted in joy as I released his hands and wrapped my arm around Damien tightly. I was thrilled that he understood. I was going to take care of him for the rest of our lives, and I vowed to give him everything. I could finally hear the voice in my head scoff.
Pathetic begging. Well, at least it all worked out, eh?
For a moment I had to agree with the voice. It was worth it, and it worked out. The 2 days that followed here were more filled with intense training and briefing of the work. Diana became more involved with the armies as the boys heightened their training efforts. I did the same on my own, not wanting to fall behind. Soon enough the boys were working from dawn to dusk, leaving me to head to the room long before Damien could. I finally returned to our room and flopped onto the bed, letting the events of my time in the Abyssal Plains replay in my mind. I was trapped here, and soon enough I would be able to go marching into battle against the Demon Lord for my freedom. The more I thought about it, the more surreal the feeling became. I was going to be in a room, meeting a powerful adversary face to face, and set myself free of the curse he brought down upon me. As Damien entered the room at last, I smiled and stood, walking over and wrapping my arms around him as he returned my embrace.
Tonight is our last night here.
Yeah. We held each other, locked in silence, and unable to say anything more. We had been in a heavy predicament, and we would work through it. It was something we did together. All we could do in the moment was hold each other and listen to our synchronized heartbeats. As the thought of tomorrow danced in my mind, I began to fear even more. Was I ready to go into battle? Was Damien? For any of us, for that matter? We were about to walk into the final battle of a world war. Would we survive? Would I live to see Damien afterward and feel his embrace again? Tomorrow brought too many questions to think about, and I became frustrated and scared. Nope, we sleep. We would survive. We would be okay. I felt safe in Damien's arms, and I'm sure he felt safe in mine. We would return to the demon world and be okay. Damien slowly walked back to my bed, and both of us tucked ourselves in, wrapping each other in our arms and escaping one last time in the darkness of slumber. Tomorrow would decide everything. The day of the siege had finally dawned, and we arrived at the Demon Lord's castle, and we were ready as we could be. Many armies bearing different banners and colors washed over the grounds before the castle, ready to rush in and lay waste to the Demon Lord and the remainder of his forces. All of us shared a common enemy, and upon his demise would all finally know some form of peace. Even during the roll call of the major generals, the air became full of determination and pride.
Mirth! Avarice! Nadia! Fiorna! Aradum!
Each name called back a mark on history. This was the war to bring freedom or destruction to the demon world. If the rebellion didn't win this fight, then this war would never end. If the rebellion won, then the world would finally be united in a hopefully peaceful rule. The hour before the battle was set to take place, my thoughts instantly ran back to our final meeting in Lilith Castle. Diana had pulled the leaders and us together, instructing us how exactly to proceed.
Zero, you will be joining Shadow and Sergeant in the front, taking care of the main army head-on. I expect that you will come out of it alive.
Yes, my lady.
Rabbit, Faye, you are in charge of range attacks and defense. We cannot allow any of those blasted imps getting to us from behind.
Yes, ma'am!
As Diana looked to me, I grew slightly fearful. I had to get into the Demon Lord's castle, but how exactly did Diana plan on getting me there?
You and your fiancé will take the side route straight to the castle.
Wait. Huh?
We've organized our army to have our strongest on the front lines and against the tree line, giving us a side route for you to make your way straight to the castle.
If anything trickles into the side route, you'll be able to handle it. However, there is something I must ask of you.
What is it?
If you are indeed attacked, you need to defend your fiancé the entire way there. Do not let him use his energy.
What? Are you insane?
When you get to the castle, I will be fighting one-on-one with the Demon Lord. If something should happen to me, then I need you to take over. She is not ready to fight him, and you need to be at full strength to finish him off.
I stared, listening and reaffirming the order. I couldn't lie, I was nervous. However, I was determined enough to see this through. I looked over at my fiancé with a confident smile. I got this, don't worry. Despite the worried look in his eyes, he nodded and held my hand, trusting me in my decision to agree with Diana's command. Diana rolled her shoulders and looked at the map, draped over the war table between us all. Her gaze pierced into the parchment as the aura around her body pulsated in anger.
I will fly ahead and meet the Demon Lord head-on. No matter what happens, I will not allow that monster to live.
The pure determination and anger in her voice practically sent a shiver down my spine. She was set on seeing this through to the end, and I was sure that she was willing to even die if it meant taking the Demon Lord with her. The remaining incubi and the wives were asked to stay behind the army and guard the main base, where Rabbit and Faye were stationed. They needed as many eyes as possible in the back of the battle, so the four couples were perfect to keep things in check. As they agreed, the meeting ended and the mental preparation had begun. The idea of the upcoming battle scared me, sending waves of fear and worry up and down my body in response to the thought.
So, this is our last day in the demon world.
Yeah, it is. Damien and I stared at the map outline of the Dark Castle and once again his unwanted home. Damien's head slowly eased into mine as he spoke again.
I will protect you no matter what. I promise.
I listened to him speak before nodding, taking a deep breath. Everything would be okay. We would be fine. I had to believe in myself and get us to the castle when the time was right. Like a beacon, our forces became the banner of hope and strength for the rebellion. At the sight of Diana, many shoulders bowed and stared in awe and inspiration. Maybe it was because of her presence, or maybe it was for what she stood for, but as Diana stood at the cliffside of the mountain, the air became full of energy and power. My fiancé Rabbit Faye and I stood behind her as Diana stood at the ledge of the cliffside addressing the rebellion for their final battle. Her voice echoed across the field, booming and reverberating through the air like thunder.
Milites! Et hoc liberati esturei tramcun tuis omnibus conversiris! Sto vobiscum reducitic vos ad spem! Nocte! Lavabir mur! Arcem! Hostium sanguine!
What is she saying?
She said that the castle will be bathed in blood, and she will lead everyone to freedom.
The first part's a bit much.
It's just to spur the troops for war. I'm sure she didn't mean it literally.
I nodded and stared at the back of Diana's head. A part of me felt a little intimidated and jealous of the power she had. She really could make armies bow to her and obey her every whim. At the same time, I knew that she was doing the right thing for this world.
Ele Dio dominati sunt nostri, nos destruet, ium mitere, profundissimum, inferni detractos.
A pair of guards rushed forward, carrying a flailing imp who was caught in chains and forcefully slammed down in front of Diana. She glared down at him and gripped one of his horns, pulling him to his knees.
You should be thankful we didn't throw you into a stew like we did your partner.
With that whispered, Diana dragged her nails across the imp's neck, slicing open 5 large gashes in his throat and making him garble out a painful, bubbly cry. Diana, however, kept holding his head up, focusing on the blood that poured from him and guiding the energy that emanated from it towards the castle. With a flash, a large purple and red orb barrier that surrounded the castle shattered, fading into the dark air. The barrier held the demon lord at bay was finally open, allowing us to charge in and end this once and for all. Diana summoned her saber, letting it shine brilliantly as a purple taint over her skin began to twist and turn. Before my eyes, the taint on her back took shape, lifting off of Diana's skin and morphed into a set of demonic wings. I could only stare, jaw dropped as Diana's body lifted off the ground and began to fly over the legions, slowly guiding towards the castle.
To war! To battle!
At her final command, Diana's wings pulsated in the air, flapping gracefully as she swooped down and forward. She was charging and flying for the castle walls, saber bared and ready to spill blood. As the armies below began to bellow and march forward, Rabbit took hold of my shoulder and turned me away from the castle to face her.
Come, we must hurry.
Understanding the need for urgency, I nodded and rushed forward with the rest of the incubi towards the slope down the mountainside.
Everything is in order. Sergeant Diana's guard are at the front lines, while Shadow is with his legion to the west.
What about our route to the castle?
We've done what we can to keep your way clear. We'll try to make sure the battle won't break through the path.
I nodded, feeling the need to rush Nip at my heels, pushing me forward. My fiancé seemed to agree, gripping my hand and walking at my pace alongside me. However, as we finally arrived at the forest line, Faye and Rabbit stopped, looking back at us.
Straight through here. The sound of the war will always be on your right, so do not get lost.
You'll be fine, though. Just follow the tree line.
In sync, my fiancé and I nodded in acknowledgement before turning to see the other brothers and their wives. So, this is it.
Remember your surroundings and protect each other.
Be careful, alright? Make sure you stay safe.
Princess, brother, we'll see you in the end.
We have faith in you. You'll make it there, and we'll return to the human world soon.
Kick his dead body a couple times for me, alright? Right in the head.
We'll be right here rooting for you and watching your back, okay?
We'll finish this and rush in as soon as we can, alright?
Make sure you kick some serious ass. Show that old goat what he gets for messing with you.
I smiled despite the nervous running through my body. I held onto my fiancé's hand and gave it a hard squeeze before receiving one back in kind. We'll finish this, then we'll go home. The group nodded before I slowly turned and looked into the tree line, took a breath, and rushed forward. Matching my speed, my left followed, weaving through the trees behind me, not to lose sight of him. The journey became simple with us running through the trees. The sound of the war echoed beside us outside of the tree line, causing me to cover my ears a bit from the volume, but I shook my head and pressed forward, not wanting to become distracted. The goal was to get to the castle. I had to focus. We made our way through the thick of the forest, dodging each tree and root we came across. I could tell that something was ahead, causing me to grip my teeth and attempted to weave through whatever that was there. As expected, we were rushing near a group of imps who were about to jump into the war fray from the side as a surprise attack, making me smirk. They were distracted enough not to notice us. I quickly took my sword from my scabbard and swung hard at the group of demons ahead of me, cleaving through the back of their necks. They couldn't even let out a scream as their voices became bubbly with blood. As I fell, I continued forward, gripping my sword and preparing in case we ran across another group. My incubus kept up the pace, understanding what I had done, but a little surprised at my skill. We continued to run forward, heading straight into another group of imps and rushed past them, dropping my sword and slashing through the back of their legs, letting them fall forward synchronized in pain. The imp fell as the others ahead of them turned and became shell-shocked at the sight. It must have been a big surprise to see a human cut down a group of all at once. But I wasn't so friendly and merciful, especially in this war, as I lunged forward again and swung my sword into the air. I became precise with my attacks, cutting down as many as I could in as little attacks as possible. There were a couple of close calls, but training with Mirth had kept me on my toes, ready for anything. My incubus, despite probably being surprised at my carnage, followed as I continued forward, fighting through every imp that came in our way. I had lost count of how many crossed me, but I didn't care. All I cared about was getting us to the castle. By the time we reached the end of the forest, there were a slew of dead bodies behind me. I stood at the tree line, panting and feeling waves of adrenaline and lack of energy run through my veins. I panted through air, slowly focusing on calming down as my energy quickly depleted from its adrenaline-filled high. I had to drop my sword, unable to hold it any longer. That was all I could do before my energy was expended and a wave of exhaustion rolled through my body. I began to fall forward, exhausted. My fiancé, however, quickly rushed forward and caught me in his arms.
Whoa! I got you. Are you okay?
Huh? I looked up to see Damien staring down at me with worry and panic in his expression. We were safe for the moment, so I merely smiled up at him with a nod. I'm fine. I promise to protect you, like you protect me. Damien softly smiled and hugged me to him, pressing his head to my shoulder. Bleh.
I love you so much.
I hugged him back, feeling relief that we had finally arrived at the castle and were about to rush inside. As he slowly pulled back, Damien lifted me up and held me to my feet.
Will you be okay?
I nodded, shaking off the exhaustion from my mind. I was ready to end this. I looked up at the castle gates and felt a rush of determination run through me. Let's go finish this. With that, Damien and I rushed forward into the castle. The final battle had begun. So how long have I been recording for? Probably like 45 minutes. Yeah, about. Yeah, I think I'm gonna end that right here for now and then do the last 20-ish minutes. I'm gonna save over here. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!